All right, I'm live. Hello, goddesses and people. I am Ashley Sunshine. I'm so excited to come in again today about the dragons. Yesterday, I accidentally had something plugged in, and so it didn't record the sound. And now I'm here with the sound, and I'm so excited. So this is take two of this transmission. It's so interesting that this is the year of the dragon. And really, it's one of the first times in my life that I'm feeling the presence of the dragon so, so strong. And it's been such a connector for me with other awakening women in conversation. And I've been just getting so many messages from the dragons. So I'm really excited to share those messages with you and to talk about the origin stories of the dragons. So let's take a moment. If you're joining me live or on the replay, pop into the comments, say hello. Let me know where you're tuning in from. If you're on YouTube, same. Thank you. It really supports me and helps me feel who's here and tune in together with you. And I want to say that these mythological energies, like the dragons, is something that each of us will have our own perspective about. We'll get our own messages, we'll receive our own downloads, we'll have our own intuitions and insights about these things. And so your perspective is super welcome. And I want to really invite you, if you agree with me, disagree with me, you have other experiences to share them because they're important. And just like how these energies are coming in, like the Magdalene, the whales, the dragons, the mermaids, all of these mythological entities that are making their way back into our consciousness, we're all going to have different perspectives about them. And what's so important is that we really use them as a unifying force, right? And not as something to divide us, because each of our different opinions are important to complete all the facets of the diamond. So let's just open with a deep breath, presencing the dragons here in this conversation. Feeling your root chakra, your legs, your feet, your toes, wiggling your womb, stirring up the energetic, the physical womb, the heart, shoulders, fingers, head, face. Even stick out your tongue and just feel that inner dragon. Thank you, thank you, thank you for entering into the sacred space and for the dragons for being here with us. So what I find so fascinating is that in mythological creation stories all over the world, in almost every ancient culture and indigenous spirituality, there are dragons included in the origin story. And specifically, this is the kind of interpretation that I've drawn from my research and my readings, is that the dragons were here in the creation of the planet, and they kind of swirled around this planet and helped to formulate the grid lines on this planet, forming the original organic grid, which is the force that interconnects everything, and the force that interconnection then creates the possibilities for life. So they were this primordial serpentine energy that paved the fertile ground for life to be born. And from the wombs of the dragons, life was born. And you can find a similar story, mythology, in Africa, in Europe, Asia. We see a lot of the dragons symbology in China and the Far East. Also in India, you have these dragon stories and the snakes. I'm going to get into that a little bit more. And then, of course, in the Americas, you have it as well. So it's just, and in Australia too. It's just fascinating how much this has kind of been lost. And just to fast forward, medieval times, the message that we got was slay the dragon. the message that we got was the dragons are evil and they need to be slain. And the same with snakes, right? The snakes throughout the Bible, throughout, the modern day kind of literature have been demonized, right? So in so many stories, we find them being actually the creatrixes, the divine feminine mother energy, the energy that came before us all and our divine and ancient ancestors. And then we find this messaging that arrived in the 1100s and on, and even before that, to slay the dragon, right? And this is kind of what we bought into as a culture, as a society. And as we begin to remember the dragon, we are really remembering the ancient feminine mother lineage, the mother earth, the mother of us all. And so I was thinking about it, and dragons look a lot like dinosaurs, and they also have this reptilian feature, which is interesting because we also have in the new age right now a lot of demonization of the reptilian species. And I do believe that the earth is under somewhat of an attack from something. I can't really be sure what it is. None of us are, but I'm curious what you think about that and the relationship between dragons, snake, dinosaurs, and reptilians. Because I know in my consciousness right now, the reptilian energy, like not reptilian, the reptile energy is coming in. It's coming in a lot through the toad, the frog, the snake, the dragons. And I really think that this consciousness is beginning to come back. For a good reason. So in this kind of conversation, I also want to invite us to really be open, because sometimes this stuff doesn't make exactly logical sense, because in the way we've looked at history, we think about it in the modern day as like, this is what happened on this and this date, and that's the story, right? And that's the logical mind kind of taking over things. And when we actually enter the realm of mythology and the mythos, the story of different energies, we step out of the logical mind and like the series of events, and we step into the fuller experience of the events and occurrences. Because in any situation, there's more than one perspective. I mean, if you've ever had a relationship with anyone, you know that there's always two sides of the story. And imagine if the story is about millions of people, right? There's millions of sides of this story. And that's what's really missing from the way we even speak about history, that this is what happened on this and this date. And according to who? According to which perspective? Right. And of course, there are solid facts and there are benefits to speaking in that way, but that's not the only way that we need to look at things. And so what I'm bringing here through the Goddesses of Herstory series is a mythological perspective. And so it might not make sense in our logical mind. And that's where I want to invite us, as we're kind of exploring this together, is to come with an open heart, come with the idea that we're actually going on an adventure through words and stories and energies, rather than trying to logically and like ultimately understand some facts. Okay. And this is really the energy of the goddess, right? The goddess is like about the experience. It's not necessarily keeping track of the things, but it's rather really keeping track of the experience and all beings involved and performing or experiencing this dance between everything. So I'm just trying to see if there's any comments or if I can between everything. I'm just trying to see if there's any comments or between everything. Okay, sorry. I'm just trying to see if there's any comments or okay, that did something so weird. Okay, sorry. I'm just trying to see if there's any comments or okay. Well, sorry about that. That was like Inception. But yeah, if you're tuning in, I'd love to say hello. Okay, so the dragons kind of formed these ley lines on the planet, and what else they did at the formation of our story of Earth. And this is a yogic exercise to contemplate what happened over the edge of what we are consciously aware of. So, we're consciously aware of our bubble, and to contemplate what is out there further than we can see. That's one practice, right, of the current moment. We're in our bubble of time, and we kind of have the tracking to 2000 years ago in writing. And then before that, we kind of have an idea of the Big Bang and the scientific theories about how the origin of the universe, the origin of our Earth. But there's a certain limit to which we can logically explain things from what we know already. So there's this yogic practice of contemplating beyond what we're consciously aware of. And the same thing with the future. What happens after we die? Where are we before we're born? All of these are questions, and it's each one of our responsibilities to sit with and to explore. And so we're going to explore that a little bit together. So the dragons co-creating, forming this beautiful planet and using their energies to create these ley lines, to build the original organic grid that connects all things and that supports all of life, because all of life is interconnected. So according to the stories, they laid forth the lines of connection through which all things then formed the web of life. And in that process of creating the ley lines and circulating, undulating their energy all across the planet and inside the planet, they also helped to bring the four elements to our planet. And while doing that, kind of co-creating with Gaia as the sisters of Gaia, or like the mothers of Gaia. I don't even know. Just how do you want to think about that? Is that through this birthing process, there were four elements separated and then interconnected to also create the foundations of life on Earth. And in the process of this formation of the interplay of the elements, the dragons also became masters of the four elements. They were able to share these powers with the Earth, and at the same time master the ability to control and manipulate the four elements here on Earth. So we have the fire dragons, we have the water dragons, right? The water serpents, we have the earth dragons, and we have the air dragons, right? They can fly too. It's really amazing. They have all these powers. And they're telling us now that they are here to help and support us to also become masters of the four elements. They're reminding us where we come from, those basic building blocks of life, and telling us that we have everything we need here to thrive. And they birthed everything that we need here to survive. And so we can call on them whenever we have a block, something that we feel in our physical reality that we can't overcome, that we have trouble kind of manipulating because we think we can't. And the dragons are here to tell us we can, because they're a part of us, they're here for us, and they hold the codes of the creation of this whole experience. And so just feeling into that for a moment, that we have access to these beings who have the power over all four elements, so that any block that we face we can call on them. We can call on these powers from within and overcome those blocks. And I don't know about you, but my last couple weeks have been really challenging. And these challenges come as up levels, right? And the dragons are here to help us with that up leveling process, to call on them to help us to overcome those challenges and realize and practice the powers that we actually have. So they're here to also remind us that challenges are good and that they're excited to come and help us with challenges, because that's why they birthed us in the first place. That's why they birthed this planet in the first place, so that we could have this amazing interplay of the four elements. Now, in my contemplation of the dragons, the dinosaurs really came into my mind. I'm like, oh my gosh, the dinosaurs are these ancient creatures that, according to our history and our male kind of dominated or masculine dominated way of thinking, they became extinct, right? Because some Armageddon happened and they could no longer live here. But in the mythos interpretation of this story, maybe the dinosaurs actually said, you know what, we're gonna make space physically for the humans to come, and we're gonna ascend to be the ancestors, right? And so maybe they were like more than just extinct animals. Maybe they were predecessors who then became the ancient ones, who are here for us, just like our ancestors are, on a spiritual level, on an etheric level. So then it's like they transcended, right? They were masters of the four elements, and then they transcended to the ethers and became for us those spirit guides and lights of love, just like our ancestors are. And that's really the energy that I feel from the dragons, is this really unconditional love and this like rooting for you kind of vibe. And that's what happens when I connect into the higher self consciousness of my ancestors, because there are, of course, some negative ties with ancestors. And so when I tune into my ancestors, I really focus on the higher self aspect of them, because I know that from their higher selves, they are cheering me on hardcore. And they want nothing for me but my fullest, most loving expression, and my most authentic self. So the same thing I feel about the dragons, right? But they are not only human ancestors, they're like supernatural ancestors from the dinosaurs. So I think that the dinosaurs didn't just go extinct because of an Armageddon, but that they ascended. Okay, so I just want to see if I don't know if maybe I just can't see the comments if there are any. But let's just take a nice deep breath together. I don't think I can even see it. Okay, that's fine. So, I wanted to just tune in and see if there's anything else that wants to be shared. Okay, yeah, so let's go to the snakes. So according to many myths, the dragons, the dragon mothers were the birthers of snakes, of the snake energy. And there are so many throughout all of the world, stories about the snake goddess, the snake goddesses. There's so many of them. In India, in rural India, there are shrines everywhere for the snake goddess. And even they make snake holes, shrines as well. There's offerings, flowers placed by every snake hole. And I find this to be so fascinating, because they consider the snake hole a portal to the goddess. And in lore, those snake holes are the womb of the dragon, the underworld. And so this snake energy, right? It's the Kundalini energy. It's in the medical symbol, there's the staff in the middle and the snake goes around. The snake is also in the Bible, the tempter for Eve. And of course, after that, we decided to start demonizing the snake as like the devil, right? And Satan, like tempting us into sin. But actually, the original worshiping of the goddess of the snake was about worshiping the undulating, free, and expressive energy of the female sexuality. And even Inanna, who we spoke about last time, she was associated also with the snake in the sense that she was so sexually powerful. She really used her sexuality to really enjoy life and to get what she wanted. And it wasn't considered a bad thing back then to really use this snake energy to create your reality as a female with a vulva, with a womb, with a yoni. And so the dragons birth the snakes, and the snakes are the feminine representation of life force energy. And so all the early goddesses like Inanna and Ishtar and Aphrodite and Kali and these ancient mythological goddesses from all over the world, they had a strong association with snakes because the dragons were their mothers. They birthed forth the snake and they birthed forth these goddesses to then be a force on our planet. And so it's said that lineage passed on from the snake goddess lineage, passed on from Inanna to Isis, to Aphrodite, to Isis, to then Mary Magdalene and Mother Mary. And in there is like Hathor as well. And then like Green Tara and the other Taras. So we have this kind of lineage of the snake weaving, starting with the dragon and weaving into the modern Bible times and medieval times where kill the snake, slay the dragon, bury the divine feminine energy so that we can hoard resources and that the 1% can have a power over the 99% because the 99% forgot their divine feminine dragon snake power. I kind of like launched it off there, but I just wanted to relate it back to like what we're going through in these times and how we continue to just stay at the curiosity and the questioning of why we think the way we do now, why we behave the way we do now, why do we act like the way we do now, why do we war like the way we do now, why do we hoard resources like the way we do now. And I find it really interesting that a lot of times with war, like the women and the children are really played up as like feel sorry for them. But like, where are the women's voices? Where are the women's real power in that society? And that's where the real question is. Where are women's power in the decisions of this war? Where are the women's power in the decisions of the societal organization and structure and how you deal with crisis and problems? You know, it's one thing to feel sorry for the women and want to protect them, but it's another thing to want to hear their voices and let them express their sacred sexuality. And really, it starts within all of us, reclaiming our womb as a place to birth creations, reclaiming our womb as portals to the dragon energy, that energy that created the world, that created the ley lines of our world. And reconnecting to our womb as a connection to the cosmic womb, as a connection to all things. And remember that we're all interconnected. And that's also what the dragons tell us. We're all interconnected. So let's unite. Let's not focus on our differences. as the main story. But let's actually let those be, the conflicts bring us closer for sure. So it's important, but the focus is on the getting closer, not on the conflict. And that's what the dragons teach us. And so the ley line. So that brings me to the last part of what I want to share today. And it's about the ley lines. And so the dragons are in charge of the ley lines all over the planet, and they're still working to create them. But our planet is becoming systematically destructured because of pollutants, because of war, because of free will and the use of free will to steal from others, from the earth. So as our planet is becoming destructuring, the ley lines are getting messed up. And so the dragons are also asking us to connect to the certain portals of the ley lines. So already shrines and, sacred sites are around specific portals. And these sacred sites are very important. And it's important for us to visit them, tend to them, give offerings to them, and re-energize them with our love and our attention. And the dragons really want to help us do this. And so they're also really helpful for traveling. Whenever I'm in the airport and I get nervous that they're going to flag me or some silly fear that I get when I travel, that I ask for the dragons' help. And actually there was a few times when I was going in COVID, they were putting all these rules to travel to different places. And I asked the dragons for help, and every gateway would open. That's what they're masters of. They're masters of opening the gateway. And to help us to do the grid work, to travel to different places all over the world, wherever we want, wherever we feel called to. It could be just next door. It doesn't have to be that far away. But to then energize and power up these sacred sites and power points on our planets so that those ley lines can be restructured. And then the whales are also in charge of ley lines. So they are doing them in the ocean and connecting to the same frequency as the dragons are. And the whales, have a similar role in the creation of our planet as the dragons. I think they were maybe co-creators. Maybe the whales were really the first children of the dragons before even the land dinosaurs. So it's really powerful to be actively restructuring our planet through the power points, through the ley lines, and also through our own inner grid. And the dragons are helping us with that too. That each of us has this internal grid of crystalline structure. And as we let ourselves get sucked into stress, conflict, anxiety, depression, we are destructuring our crystalline grid of our own bodies. And through self-care, spiritual cleansing, protection, boundaries, stuff like that, we start to restructure our system. So peace begins with us, right? Love begins with us. The remembrance and the connectivity of all things begins with us. So, yeah, I just really want to invite you to feel into that and how that speaks to you and how your soul's song, your vibration can start to match that which you long for. Because your longing is ancient. The dragon's longing for interconnectivity and universal love and mastery is within you. Those seeds are dormant, perhaps, but they never went away. And that's the good news, is that the seeds are all here still. That even though this modern society has forgotten so much, and the dragons are what the heck, you guys? still the dormant seeds are there, waiting to be awakened again, waiting to be spoken to in whatever way that feels good for you. And the whole point is that it feels good for you. So I want to close this talk. Just going to check if there's, okay. I'm going to close this talk with a little transmission from the dragons. Let's see if they want to say anything right now. Okay. So I want to invite you to close your eyes, connect in with your breath, connect in with your womb, your hips. Maybe you want to wiggle them a little bit side to side. Connecting into the heart, shoulders, hands, arms. Presencing the dragons, the benevolent, crystalline, golden, rainbow dragons. And just feeling into if you have your own dragons, or if any are coming to visit you, just noticing color, shape, size, saying hello, introducing yourself. Sisters, daughters, lovers. It is time for unity. True unity can only happen through speaking your truth, through allowing your voice to be heard. It is not through silencing the self. It is not through dulling the voice or over-explaining. Shine your voice and keep it simple. The simplicity allows deeper connection. How can you simplify into the heart? We're waiting for you there. What do you need? Simple. What do you want? Simple. Tell us. We're in your heart. And we're ready to take you on for a ride. In the moments where you feel despair, where you want to go down the spiral of separation, we'll be there for you too, at the bottom. And you just say the word and hop on. And on the way, we'll pick up your sisters, your friends, your lovers, your brothers. We ride together. No one gets left behind. We are committed to staying with this planet until everyone remembers, no matter how long it takes. We love you. We love the earth. We're happy to be here. It's fun to play. Ah, shoo, shoo, shoo. Thank you so much for tuning in with me. Let's see. Yeah, I drew a picture last night of a dragon. I actually drew two, so I want to share those with you. That's the first one that I drew. This one was without looking at a picture of a dragon. You can probably tell. And then this one was with looking at a picture of a dragon. Yeah. All right. Thank you so much for being here. It's my honor to share these stories with you. And I'm really curious what you connected with, what you didn't connect with, how this lands with you, and what you're curious about hearing more about as I continue to share more. All right, my loves. Mwah. Many, many blessings. Bye bye.